In collaboration with AB Capital Securities Inc., Global Strategy Real Estate presents to you the weekly stock market wrap-up, posting every Friday of every week.
皆さんこんにちは。今週もですね、AB キャピタルの生ライブの対談始めていきたいと思います。この企画初めて参加される方もいるかもしれませんので、今一度、企画の内容を軽く話しておきますと、こちらはですね、ストックマスターズの会員限定に AB キャピタルの現地のプロアナリストを実際にお呼びして、皆さんの、クエスチョンですね、わからないことを、現地の方に直接聞いて答えていただくという企画です。で、さらに1週間のですね、マーケットの情報、それから個別銘柄の情報等々、こちらで配信していきますので、ぜひ皆さん、お楽しみにご覧ください。で、今回参加されているメンバーは、日本が GSR の方から私と家村で、フィリピンの弊社のスタッフでステファニーで、AB キャピタルのプロアナリストとしてレクターさん、ランスさんに来てもらっています。では早速、Q&A の方からですね始めていきたいと思います。で、今週もですね、皆様から質問いただいてまして2点いただいてます。で、1つ目が、農業銘柄ですね。農業に関連した銘柄、どんなものがあるのか、そして、どんなおすすめ銘柄農業の株であるのか、これが1点目。2点目がですね、先週コストコ、皆さんコストコご存知かと思うんですけど、フィリピンのコストコがですね、ワイン事業を、しているダヴィンチキャピタルという会社をですね、買収して、資本を、得たというニュースが出ましたので、これについて、ダヴィンチの株価がどう動くのか、そこを聞いていきたいと思います。
そこはね、ダヴィンチにコストコのがワイン事業を売却したんだよ。
逆ですね。
そういうディールが起きたってことですね。
そうです。
はい。
ダヴィンチがワイン事業を買い取ってですね。はい、そうですね。はい、そこの部分聞いていきたいと思います。では、家村さん、お願いいたします。
はい、おはようございます。今日もですね、皆さんの質問にお答えしていきたいと思います。株式市場もね、ちょっとね、今、なんですか、ちょっと波乱含みになってまして、アメリカ国債がね、金利が上がって株価がね、落っこちたりしてですね、特にそのテック銘柄とかがね、アメリカの中心に落ちて、日経平均もね、3万円からちょっとまた2万円台に落ちてますけども、そんな、世界のちょっとマネーフローはあるんですけども、そんな中でちょっとフィリピン株ね、どうなっていくのか、その辺もうちょっとね、深掘りしていければなと思います。
またそしたらこういう情報がありましたら皆さんに提供できるようにしていきたいと思います。というわけで一応2点ですね、今日質問いただきましたのに対してお答えしました。こういった形で毎週お答えしていきますので、ぜひ皆さん何でも聞いていただければこういう形で現地のプロに答えてもらいますから、こういったものをよくどうぞ皆さん活用していただいて、今後のフィリピン株の投資活動に生かしていただければなと思いますので、今後ともどうぞよろしくお願いします。というわけで、Q&A のコーナーはここで終わりにしまして、後半はですね、ウィークリーラップアップという形で、今週のマーケット情報、それから個別銘柄の情報等、まとめを配信していきますけれども、ここからすべて英語でのやり取りになりますので、英語が分かる方はこのまま見ていただいてもよろしいですし、ちょっと厳しいという方もですね、後日、日本語のスクリプトをつけて、会員限定に配信はしますので、ぜひそちらの方を活用してみていただければと思います。では、ここで一旦 Q&A を締めさせていただきたいと思います。で、Stephanie, let's get started. We could wrap up since now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly stock market wrap-up with AB Capital Securities Inc. Today, we have Mr. Lance to give us this week's stock market report.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lance, and welcome to this week's market wrap. Okay, so first off, for the US markets, what moved the major averages last week was continued concern over rising yields. So increasing yields is of course bad for equities on a valuation standpoint, and that's especially bad for the high growth tech companies, since a lot of tech companies are dependent on borrowing in order to increase their or to grow their businesses. What kind of improved somehow the sentiment last week was Fed Chair Powell stating that inflation and employment are still below Fed's goals, which means that the US accommodative monetary policy stance will likely stay in place. And for the Philippines, some economic news: delayed recovery to slash the country's growth this year. So the base case assumption of S&P is that the Philippines will grow 9.6% this year, and that's assuming that by the second half, the Philippines will already see a robust economic recovery with wide-scale vaccine distribution. Should that be delayed by 2 months, growth will just be about 7.7%. And should that be delayed by 4 months, S&P expects the country to just grow by about 7.4%. Next, BSP names new deputy governor with expertise in digital payments. FDI pledges slumped to 3-year low, down 71% to 112 billion pesos. And finally, permit processes for fiber optic projects next up for streamlining. And some corporate news: Meralco ordered to refund nearly 14 billion pesos to consumers due to over recoveries, so they can pay that up in 24 months. Next, Dito Telco passes audit before launching. So Dito Telco has passed the technical audit before its expected launch by March 8th. So their services is expected to begin in the Visayas and Mindanao area. Next, Premier Horizon set to join FTSE Global Index. Costco to spin off wine and liquor business to DAVIN. And finally, out of the 12 index issues that released full year results, 7 were in line, or 7 were behind, 2 were in line, and 3 were ahead of full year consensus earnings estimate. So on a week-on-week basis, the index is down 131 points, mainly due to President Duterte rejecting the IATF's recommendation to put the whole country under a more relaxed MGCQ. And also last week, net foreign selling accumulated to 4.9 billion pesos. So that's the 5th net foreign selling in 6 weeks. So the vaccine rollout already kicked off here in the Philippines last March 1. More than 750 people have been vaccinated by the Sinovac vaccine. So just to give you an idea, so far the government and private sectors have vaccine deals with these manufacturers. And so far, about 180 million doses are expected to arrive for this year. And year-to-date net outflows or net foreign outflows accumulated to 20.5 billion pesos. And their outlook is still the same. We continue to expect net foreign selling to persist most of the days. We expect to see net foreign buying to persist more often once we start to see that the vaccine rollout is already translating to lower number of active cases, which is obviously good for consumers' sentiment to go out and actually spend more. And year to date, the Philippine stock market is still among the worst performing markets in the region, given that we still have a very high number of active cases. Average daily cases right now is at around 2,000 cases per day. And with more people getting infected with the more infectious UK COVID-19 variant, and also with the entry of the South African variant, will likely lead to a higher number of active or daily cases, which is again especially bad for the Philippine economy, since the Philippine economy is among the hardest hit economies by the pandemic last year. And for our market outlook, we expect the index to retest the 6,900 and 7,000 resistances on optimism, given that, as I've mentioned, vaccine rollout has started last March 1. So some key events: inflation will be on March 5, unemployment data on March 9, and trade balance will be on March 12. So for our stock picks, it's still the same as before. We just again updated the prices For our dividend picks, we suggest you go for the companies with stable earnings and high dividend payout, such as Tel, Globe, and Meralco. And for our value plays, we suggest you go for companies that are still trading below their book values, which are Metro Bank, Security Bank, GT Cap, MPI, LTG, and DMC. So to aid you with your trading, we also included entry and exit points. And finally, again, the companies in the negative territory are the companies trading at a discount versus their 10-year average PE. And the companies in the positive territory are the companies trading at a premium versus their 10-year average PE. And that's it for this week's market wrap.
Lance-san, please just pick up the major things about the earnings score. Hello.
Yeah.
You have a 3 table, right, of earnings score. Could you pick up something major event? Yeah, major things happen in earnings score.
Well, so far only 12 companies have reported their earnings, and again, most are behind their full year consensus earnings estimate.
This percentage is compared with last year?
The full year forecast of last year, yeah.
Compared with last year?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So, and here's the list of the expected growth from 2020 to this year.
Okay, thank you, Lance-san. I have several questions. Okay, firstly, if possible, I want you to add the regional markets performance. I want you to add Vietnam, if possible, from next week, because in Japan there are three countries which have a big interest. We call BIP: Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines.
Sure.
So is it possible? Can you add Vietnam?
Okay.
From next week?
Next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I still want to have questions about the FTSE balance. First question is Lopez Group. Lopez Group conducted they did take over bid. Their stock price almost remain flatting around 3.73. This is a little bit lower than the offer price. So what do you think? What's happened for Lopez Group from now on in terms of their stock price?
I think on the Lopez side, the tender offer is still ongoing, so the price will likely be maintained at that level. So it wouldn't be, I would say there's no value proposition if you buy the shares at this point, since everyone's gonna tender. So I think the stock will move after the tender offer period. Although if you're looking on a valuation standpoint, it's actually quite discounted at this level. And given that the company is still looking to maintain its listing in the stock exchange, then I think it's one company that we can take a look at. But for now, we don't see any major movement until the tender offer lapses.
So what do you think? Why FTSE take Lopez Group at this timing?
Well, it's because there's no value proposition yet. Since ideally, if you're a shareholder right now, it's either you sell at the market at this level, or you wait for the tender offer period with the major shareholders purchasing at that level. So, given that the tender offer price was already announced, so it won't fluctuate as much from the tender offer price.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think after tender offer finished? The Lopez stock price currently 3.7. It's gonna be up or down? What your expectation?
Personally, I think that there's a higher probability it would go higher.
I think so.
Since valuation, since everyone believes that the tender offer price is heavily discounted to the actual fair value. So I think in the next few months there might be some repricing happening for Lopez.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. Next question also regarding the FTSE related. PHA is taken by FTSE this time. The PHA stock price started to rise since November. At that time, there is no announcement from FTSE. So why PHA stock has been going up last couple of months?
It's a combination of the news that came out. So aside from the FTSE inclusion, everyone's optimistic about the Squid Pay rollout.
Squid Pay. Oh yeah, okay.
So everyone's optimistic with that, especially that they tied up already with several institutions for their platform. So they can get a huge chunk of customer base already, even before the actual launch. In fact, they have already launched. They're starting to accept already some customers as well and merchants.
I see. So their stock price started to jump because of the Squid Pay, and recently, in addition to that, FTSE rebalance news is coming.
Yes, I think the FTSE rebalancing has already been priced in by the market. So it's just an added boost also to the rollout news.
I see. Thank you. And so stock picks. Every week you show us the stock picks. It's really valuable information. And I want to ask the formula of the target price. How do you evaluate the target price?
Yes.
How to calculate? How to formulate?
Yeah, for the target prices, it actually varies depending on the industry. So ideally, for the banks, you'd want to use you usually do a dividend discount model, and then usually the metric that you use for bank is price to book. Since it's price to book for the banks, for the property sector, you use a net asset value. So you try to get the value of the property, including the land bank, for the entire assets of each property company. So you usually do a discounted cash flow, how much they will earn at a certain point, how much they have in terms of inventory, and then for consumer companies, we have of course we do also a discounted cash flow. For the conglomerates, so that would be a combination of all the metrics. So you do a sum of the parts.
I see. Oh, it's very understandable. So when you calculate the discount cash flow, how do you get the basically when you calculate the discount cash flow model, I think you use 5-year projection or something like that. How do you get those 5-year projections number?
Yes, most of our forecasts are also guided by the company. So sometimes most of the time they provide also guidance for the analysts. So we have some figures. So we have some figures that we can work with. So
you can take in the number from the company.
It depends. Not all companies give. Not all companies are generous to give their targets. So of course they don't wanna provide also very high expectations for the company. So sometimes they're very conservative.
Yeah, depends on the company.
Yes, so
Conservative or optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes they're very conservative. Sometimes they don't give at all. But ideally, what they usually give is a top line, just the top line target. So let's say, for example, for the likes of DNL, normally they would just give a very vague target. They would say mid-teens growth. So at least with those figures, we can work around it. Some companies also give guidance in terms of margins. So let's say, for example, if you expect let's say 10% profit margin, so at least you can use that you can apply that in your model. So and then for the other assumptions, you can actually get some guide also with industry growth. Let's say, for example, the agriculture or the property sector is expected to grow X amounts, let's say 5 to 10% growth. So at least you can plug that in your assumptions. And you're right about that. Usually we use a 3 to 5 year time frame projection.
Okay. So when if the company don't disclose the number, you set some assumption and you calculate by yourself sometimes.
Yes, most of the time, yes. Since we have no choice. Our only guide would be to use the historical data. So sometimes we go 3 years, 5 years back, 10 years back. So at least we have some guidance on how we could project the future earnings of the company.
I see. Okay, thank you very much. And the final question. You show us every week the top gainer and top loser, and this week, is there any? I want to ask you, top gainer, BKR, PHES, PHI, Prime, CHI. I want to ask, is there those stock hike, price jump, is for speculation or kind of money game, or is there anything actual event or catalyst?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, most of the top gainers that you see here are all speculation. So these are actually so these are actually penny stocks. So since the overall market is quite expensive, so most of the retail sector are playing penny stocks. So they actually look into smaller issues that they can easily move the stock prices up. So it's essentially similar to what's happening in GameStop in the US.
I see. So this is kind of a short-term game. So
yes.
Is there any? This is not recommendation for everybody, but some of our clients like to play game. So do you know how to win those kind of short-term games?
I think I think if you wanna trade, if you wanna take advantage of speculative names, I would look at liquidity. So look at companies that are trading, I would say, anywhere between at least 500 million pesos in average daily turnover. So at least it's easy for you to churn. I believe those companies that you see here, BKR, PHES, BHI, Prim, those companies are trading less than 10 million pesos a day. So it's when you buy, for example, 10 million pesos worth of speculative issues, it's hard for you to get in and out of the stock. So usually what happens there is that you get stuck at buying at the top. So it's hard for you to get out. So ideally, if you want to look into speculatives, look into issues that are actively traded. So companies like Dito, PHA, APL, so BSC. So those are a few names that have been actively traded. Despite being penny stocks, they've been actively being traded in the market right now.
I see. Okay. Thank you. That's all my question, Stephanie.
Thank you, Mr. Lexer, Mr. Lance, Yumura-san, and Matsushita-san for joining us today. And that is it for our weekly stock market wrap-up with AB Capital Securities Inc. Thank you, and see you again next week.